Ever find yourself maybe late at night scrolling through old Facebook posts and you like stumble across someone who's, no longer with us, kind of, it makes you think, right?
Yeah.
About what happens to all that stuff we leave behind online. So today we're going to take a deep dive into this whole digital ghost thing, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Like what happens to our data after, well, we're not around to manage it anymore. We'll be looking at those kind of creepy stories about social media accounts that seem to like keep going, and even AI that can mimic people who've passed away.
Yeah.
We'll definitely get into the whole, emotional side of it too, like how it makes us feel and the ethical stuff we got to think about. But to kick things off, I got to share this story I read. Picture this, right? You get a Facebook message, but it's from your husband's account. And he passed away a few years ago. That's what happened to this woman. She starts getting these messages, just like snippets of old conversations, totally random. So is it just some weird Facebook glitch, or is it something, I don't know, something a little creepier?
See, it's things like that, those stories, that really tap into this primal fear we have, right? This idea that something might be, lingering around after it's gone. And the tech side is actually pretty interesting. I mean, technically, there are totally normal explanations for how a dead person's account might still, be active. Like, think about it, data storage, algorithms that dig up old content. It's kind of like when Spotify recommends you a song you haven't heard in forever. But in this case, it's coming from, well, someone who's no longer around.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like the algorithm doesn't know, right?
Yeah.
It just keeps chugging along. But knowing that doesn't make those experiences any less, I don't know, emotionally charged. It's like that whole thing with the AI chatbot that was mimicking a dead friend.
Mm-hmm.
Like on the surface, it's kind of heartwarming, but then you start thinking about it and it gets kind of, I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. It's a real Pandora's box. You're talking about the very core of grief, closure, and what it even means to live on, in this digital world we live in. I mean, imagine who gets to say if there's a digital copy of you floating around online after you're gone. And does chatting with a digital ghost actually help someone grieve, or does it just make things weirder? This is where this digital ghost thing gets really real, It's not just a spooky story anymore. It's a whole ethical dilemma.
It really makes you wonder, like, what actually is a digital ghost? Is it just like data trails, or is it something, I don't know, something more?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's funny, the term itself can mean a bunch of different things to different people. Like for some people, it might just be stumbling on an old email account and getting a little nostalgic. But for someone else, it could be like their dead grandpa's algorithm recommending them a fishing rod on Amazon.
Whoa. Okay, yeah, that's a bit much.
And that's where it gets kind of blurry, right? The line between data and like actual sentiment.
Totally. And it goes back to that feeling we were talking about, that like unsettling feeling of being, I don't know, watched almost, like interacted with by something that's not really there anymore.
Right.
It all makes you think, like, what happens to all that data? It's got to go somewhere.
It does. And that's where things go from like this theoretical spooky thing to like a real practical issue. Think about it. Our digital lives are everywhere, right? Tons of platforms, servers, the cloud, all that.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess if you really think about it.
It is. And honestly, some platforms are better than others at dealing with, what happens when a user dies. Some are totally playing catch up. And that's where this whole digital will thing comes in.
Okay, so digital wills.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that term thrown around, but what does that actually mean? Is it like I write down all my passwords and give them to my brother?
Well, it's kind of like that, but there's a bit more to it. First off, you got to take inventory.
Inventory? Of what?
Of your digital life. And not just social media. Like, what about email accounts? Online banking?
Yeah.
Cloud storage? You probably have a dozen shopping accounts with your credit card info saved.
Oh, God, don't remind me. I need to delete some of those.
Right. It's crazy how much we accumulate online without even realizing it. And once you have a handle on all that, you got to figure out what you want to happen to each thing. Some platforms, they have settings built in for legacy stuff. Like you can say who manages your account after you're gone.
Oh, really? I had no idea.
Or you can just have it deleted.
Yeah.
But other platforms, they might need, more specific instructions, and that's where an actual lawyer can come in handy.
So it's like digital housekeeping and legal stuff.
Got it.
But it sounds like the main thing is to, like, actually DO something about it, right?
Exactly. We can't just assume our families will know what to do with all our online accounts.
Yeah, totally.
Uh-huh.
Especially since they're probably still trying to figure out their own WN digital mess, right?
Right. And on top of that, laws and like what these platforms allow are always changing. What works now might be totally different in 5 years.
True. It's kind of overwhelming when you really think about it. Like, it makes you think about your whole digital legacy, If someone were to, like, stumble on my internet history years from now, what would they think?
That's the question, isn't it? Imagine someone trying to figure you out based on your old tweets or your Amazon purchases from 2023.
Oh, God, don't even. Okay, changing the subject. But seriously, we started off talking about, like, the kind of spooky side of digital ghosts.
Yeah.
But it's obviously way bigger than that. It's about, like, who owns all this data we create and what happens to it.
100%. And it's definitely not something that's going away, especially with all the new tech coming out.
Right. Like, what's next?
Exactly. I mean, think about how we might be interacting with tech, with the internet 10 years from now. It'll probably change how we think about death and memories and all of that.
Makes you think. So what you're saying is we need to, like, stay informed and be proactive.
Exactly. The digital world changes fast, but being informed, making good choices, that's always important. So take a look at your online accounts, do some research, talk to your family about it.
Great advice. And on that note, I think we're about out of time. A huge thank you to you for taking this deep dive with me. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us. It's been, a lot to think about. Until next time, stay curious out there.